It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. Ladies and gents, stats are important, analysis is important, and that's what we provide you. But nothing stands out like the Reds being top of the league. So here to join me as ever to talk through Brighton, the key stats, everything that's happening off the field, to look at a tale of two United and the stats for that in the coming week, and even to be pressed on our most important player is the renowned and the respected Ben Bocksak. Ben, how are we, sir?
Yeah, good. It was an enjoyable Easter, and especially when you're top of the table, it's nice to relax and sit back and enjoy that victory over Brighton. Although, at some points during the game, I wasn't quite as enjoying it as much. I think it did feel like we struggled through it at times, but I think that's credit to the way Brighton play and the way Brighton set up. They make it difficult. Yeah. And in the end, I think it's credit to us as well that we managed to come back and get the result through some brilliant individual flashes as well.
Yeah, no doubts about that. They do set up in an interesting way, that man-for-man system that De Zerbi goes with, shall we say, but we got the job done. And just before we get into this one, ladies and gents, I'm sure you've heard the message from Eddie and other contributors on this channel. In the current climate and the way everything's working, we want to provide as much free content. We very much are a fan channel, run by fans, for fans, wanting to give all voice and opinion. We want to provide you with content, analysis, and insight. That's always what we try to bring you. However, in the current climate, as we say, it gets tougher and tougher to do that on a free basis. So while there's no obligation on any of you as listeners, we would say that we are looking very much at how we can do that best. Hence, it's right for me to point you in the direction of our Anfield Index Pro subscription. So for less than the price of a coffee per month, you can listen to everything quicker than anyone else, ad-free compared to anyone else, for less than the price of a cup of coffee. All that content, analysis, and insight for you. So, Ben, let's get into it, because like you say, maybe the result made it more nervous than it needed to be. However, and I might be wrong on this, the result plays a part, but stats-wise, and I tried to take the emotion out of this a little bit, as we do with stats, it did feel like, and could well be shot down here spectacularly, but I'm guessing the stats would say we were the best team. We had the best of the game. Does that match up?
Yeah, I think numbers-wise, we created 2.83 XG, so kind of underperformed our XG a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Brighton overperformed, they only created 0.45.
Wow.
Even in terms of the chances created, they created 6, we created 21. So we did have plenty of opportunities. Obviously, there was that offside goal for Luis Diaz, which was very marginally offside. So, that doesn't count to the XG, obviously, but that is another opportunity that was, just a whisker away from, being given as a goal. I think probably like the most interesting stat for me was that in the first half, Brighton attacked like 60% down their left channel, which was
Yeah.
our right side. And I think at times you saw Kwanzaa and Bradley being tested a little bit. But what stood out to me is like they both really stood up to those challenges and those tests. Maybe the first 5-10 minutes, there was a few shaky moments, but I think in the end they grew into the game, and Kwanzaa in particular did really well to cover that area and make a few key interceptions as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair reflection as well. You're right. They did seem to very much be targeting that channel. You thought, especially early doors, Adingra, I think it was, looked to have a bit of the better of Conor Bradley, but it seemed to change the longer that game went on, especially with Quanta. We saw him getting better as well as the game went on. But like you said, the amount of shots difference there is startling. It almost felt like it's a 2-1, so it's a tight game in scoreline. Maybe Liverpool were just a bit wasteful more than anything, if that's the right word, on the day. And I mean, we always talk about specific players. I know you tweeted about them, so I do want to call out a few players. Almost in essence, Mo Salah's record's incredible. I never want to say anything that is negative around him at all, but maybe the key culprit in terms of the wastefulness. I mean, how did his stat, shall we say, stack up in this one?
Yeah, he took the most shots he has ever done in a single Premier League game.
Wow.
12, obviously conversion-wise, I didn't get a lot of them on target, and then obviously only got that one goal. But I think what's important with Salah is like he stepped up when it mattered.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of the shots that he was taking weren't really high-value shots. They were from outside the box a lot of the times, or in and around the edge of the penalty area when he was surrounded by a bunch of Brighton defenders. Brighton played quite deep as well. They dropped deep, and I think that's why he took on so many shots as well, because it kind of gave him the space to shoot in that sense. So, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting game for Salah. Probably wasn't his best game, but I think it just goes to show that when it really mattered, when he got that clear-cut chance, he stepped up and he scored.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's we can say that it's not Mo Salah's best game, but he scores the winner. It's a great touch and finish from a fizz pass in from McAllister. He also, on another day, it's a brilliant pass for Luis Diaz, which is fractionally offside. So he has another assist to his total, which is incredible. And I think there was that one where the Brighton keeper literally its fingertips late on, isn't it, with Salah's right foot and the deflection. So on another day, Mo Salah's walking away with a hat trick and even more. And even now, as we're saying it, wasn't it his best day? He's the difference maker.
Where Bruggen, by the way, was brilliant, the Brighton goalkeeper. I have to say, he was superb. Normally, as well, when a goalkeeper plays like that at Anfield, we tend to drop points, but thankfully, this time around, we managed to get those 2 goals and get the win. But credit to him, he was really good.
Yeah, he did apply the Anfield keeper jinx. We've seen that when a League Two, shall we say, standard goalkeeper becomes prime Lem Yashin or Buffon for the younger viewers, shall we say, all of a sudden. But yeah, fair credit to him. And I know we like to bring stats, Ben. I mean, that record as well from Salah, along with Thierry Henry and Alan Shearer, 7 seasons in the Premier League of 25 goal contributions, 16 goals, 9 assists for the cat. I mean, that's already unreal. And by the way, if anyone forgets, Mo Salah was out for about 2 months of the campaign as well. So absolutely insane that way. And I mentioned that the guy who played the pass to Mo Salah, Alexis McAllister, it seemed that he was it's getting almost standard, this. It's just almost like Mo Salah. But he was brilliant again, wasn't he? Surely the stats tell us that for McAllister.
Absolutely. I think 11 passes into the opposition's final third, which was the most in the game.
Wow.
That alone, I think, given the fact that, like you mentioned, Brighton sort of man-marked him, pressed him. I thought Jakub Mother in the first half actually did a really good job against him. It was really only in the second half that McAllister sort of started producing his best. But most chances created in the match with 6, 5 key passes, 92% pass completion, 6 recoveries, which was the joint most in midfield. And 12 goal contributions for him now, which is the joint most alongside Dominic Szoboszlai from midfield. And I think when we were sort of talking about McAllister coming in, we almost said like, yeah, but let's reduce our expectations because a lot of his goal contributions, a lot of his assists, a lot of his goals came from set pieces for Brighton, and at Liverpool he's not going to be taking those set pieces. But we didn't have to reduce our expectations. He's already got 7 assists for Liverpool, which I think is his total tally for Brighton in all his seasons at the club. So that just goes to show how much he's elevated his game. And I think De Zerbi said after the press conference as well that he thought McAllister's improved even since leaving Brighton, which has only been a few months, not even a year yet. So yeah, I think he was brilliant, and just particularly his last sort of stretch of 10 to 15 games in 2024, he has been unreal. Like I think obviously playing that holding midfield role, not having Wataru to partner him, he was still sort of easing his way into things at Liverpool. Yeah. But now we're seeing the best version of him, and we're going to get into it in terms of who's Liverpool's most important player. But after a contribution like that, you have to put him up there, I think.
Yeah, no doubts about all for £35 million as well. And you're right, it's interesting you said that. I do wonder if any other teams will try that tactic. Brighton did go, like you say, go largely man for man. Moder, and also you saw him as Welbeck at times. They were trying to like double team him, so to speak. They know what he's been at that club. They know what he can bring. They were clearly like, let's shut McAllister down because that'll stop Liverpool playing. It will be interested to see, do other teams try anything like that? Although he's a bit off the cuff, De Zerbi, isn't he, in terms of setups, and maybe hard to replicate that as well. And the only other player I really wanted to shout out, we touched upon him early doors. It was a real baptism of fire in the early opening stages for Joel Quanta, but probably more Connor Bradley. Everything came down that channel. They very much targeted it. And it wasn't just in the opening exchanges. But like you said, it felt the longer the game went on, the better Connor Bradley got from the eye test. Did the stats bear that out as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Won the most duels on the pitch, completed the most dribbles, won the most tackles, 3 chances created, 3 interceptions as well. Wow. Those are top defensive numbers, but top like attacking numbers as well. 3 chances created, I think, was a joint second highest for Liverpool, alongside Soboslai. So I thought he did really well. I thought he was a big threat going forward, and it's not easy to play against someone of Adingra's quality. He's someone who is really highly rated at Brighton. I think he already scored against us earlier on in the season. I think the way he handled Adingra was really good, and just going forward as well, he was really good going forward and caused Brighton a lot of problems. I thought they couldn't really sort of figure out how to handle him.
Yeah.
There were times when he was caught maybe a little bit out of possession, out of position. When Brighton went on those quick transitions in the first half. But I think that's just part and parcel of Liverpool's system. Sometimes it's a high risk, high reward strategy, and sometimes there are situations when the opposition team can create an overload, and then it's the sort of the difficult job of the centre backs to handle that, and the holding midfielders. And I think in this game, Quanta handled that really well, and Bradley got back in time when he was needed as well.
Yeah, and like you said, another day, Salah takes those chances, a few from him, and he's got a couple of assists. Quanta, I mean, literally, how crazy is it that 2 young lads, one who was in League One, one who was playing League Two football last year, are now prominent in a title charge as it stands? And a bit of a different one I want to ask you, Ben, because we talked about Adingra, we didn't mention him, but Danny Welbeck hits the shot of his life. So we're thinking that's it for them. Let's hope their season fades. But actually, people seem to have missed this because everyone's fascinated by the fact Spurs have got the top 3 to play. As before Sunday, and even now, Brighton have got the top 3 title contenders. There's us gone, but Arsenal have still got to go to the Amex, as have City still got to go to the Amex. Not far at all. They're both in April as well. I mean, let's try and give it a bit of hope here if we can, Ben. We'll see if the stats or the history bears that out. Have Brighton got even a semi-decent record when City go to the Amex or Arsenal go to the Amex at all? Could we be hopeful of drop points or something there, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get carried away, but I do think you're right. Like, Brighton could have a say in this title race, yeah.
Yeah.
People are sort of writing them off because of their recent form, because of their injuries, but they're forgetting that a lot of the players are coming back now from injury.
Yeah.
No, Mitoma is out, but the rest are still going to be coming back at certain points of the season. Evan Ferguson, hopefully he can, regain his form, and then they don't have to rely on Danny Welbeck to score goals. But yeah, like overall, if you're looking at the stats, City's record at Brighton, for example, the last 3 games, 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 defeat for City.
Okay.
That's pretty equal,
Yeah.
That's like out of 2/3 of those games they've dropped points, which is we'll take that, if even if it's just a draw. I think at this stage any drop points is good news for Liverpool. We don't necessarily have to rely on Brighton taking all 3 points. And then Arsenal, they've played that. I looked at their last 5 games against Brighton because they haven't actually played a lot of games at Brighton Stadium recently. So a lot of them have been at the Emirates in like the cup games and stuff. But overall, Brighton have won 3 out of the last 5 meetings between them, which is again encouraging. Beat them 3-0 last season as well. It was less than a year ago as well. So
wow.
I think it was like a mid-May fixture towards the end of the season. So yeah, I think there is a lot of optimism there in terms of, potential drop points. And I think if we're looking at the run-in, I think maybe you can make the argument City's run-in is similar to ours. But if you're looking at Arsenal's, like Arsenal is obviously the closest to us at the moment.
Yeah.
Like their run-in is really difficult. They still got to play the North London derby, like you mentioned. I mean, they still got to face Chelsea, which is not an easy game even in the form that they are. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, and definitely don't write off Brighton because they could certainly help us. And I just wanted to mention as well, I hope I don't jinx it, but the last time we beat Brighton at Anfield was over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-1 win as well. And that season we went on to win the league title. So I don't know, that's something to think about, maybe it's written in the stars.
It's better to go back in history rather than talk about that horrendous 2021 season we always seem to bring up on each pod. So to look at it that way. And yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? They've got points against City. They've got points about Arsenal. It's interesting how all the focus is on Spurs and no one's noticed Brighton. But let us hope, people, they have a say in the title race for all the right reasons that way. So that was Sunday's game. I mean, bit of off the field that we always cover, Ben, and it seems almost, it's not quite as dramatic as the on the field stuff for obvious reasons, but there's still things are happening. So we had the Xabi Alonso announcement, didn't we, if you want to call it that? I think it's better to call it that with what he said in the press conference and staying at Leverkusen. All the stories seem to be the other one that we talked about. Amorim seems to be the favourite. A lot of feature pieces on him, a lot of discussion about him. And then Marques, the FSG are set to appoint him, aren't they, from Benfica in some sort of role, but an FSG role, not an LFC role, important to say. I mean, we've done our research. We talked last week about the two. We've got to be honest, we said Alonso was our favoured thing based on that. With his announcement on what he said, do you understand his decision? Do you know, can you make peace with what he said?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we mentioned that was made me a little bit uncertain about him perhaps was the sample size.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of that experience, and I think that will have motivated his decision to sort of, think, actually, I need a bit more experience. Maybe I'm not ready for such a big step. And in that sense, you can't really blame him. He's also sort of started out something special at Bayer Leverkusen, and he may think, actually, I want to continue. I want to see, I think the big challenge for any manager is not winning your first league title, but your second. So I think he kind of thought, actually, I'm going to be able to learn a lot more if I stay at Leverkusen and if I sort of learn how to not just challenge for the title once, but continue challenging at the highest level. So, yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't think, he's still only, 42 years old. So
young.
I don't think the Liverpool job is, is out of the question for Alonso in the future. You don't know what the future holds. I don't know if the next Liverpool manager is going to be here for 9 years. We hope so. I think, because that means that will have been a good appointment and a lot of success, but you never know. And even if he is here for 9 years, Alonso's only going to be 51 years old, perfectly fine to, come back to Liverpool again. So, I think overall I'm perhaps a little bit disappointed, but not surprised by the decision.
Which I think is fair. We talked about last week, didn't we, how for us it was almost Alonso 1, Amorim 2, but we would be happy with either, just to be clear that we repeat that. And Amorim seems the prime name, doesn't it, with De Zerbi almost being ruled out. There's a few others come in, like Inzaghi, Nagelsmann, but it does feel like Amorim is the one to be anointed. But then again, we said this about Alonso, so fingers crossed, we'll have to see. I know we've talked about him a little bit before, so we'll keep this brief. But, Amorim's spoken. He's right in the middle of a double hunt himself, isn't he, with his trophies as well? But he'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I'm guessing you would still be fully behind Amorim if that is the one that seems to be apparent.
Absolutely. I think, like I mentioned, the concerns are sort of the transitions and stuff where they were sort of exposed in Europe. That kind of reminds me of early Jurgen Klopp teams. So I can see the sort of similarities there in terms of, the way he likes to play a high line, commitment forward. It's very similar to Klopp. And I think what's important to note is, okay, in Europe, they have struggled with those overruns, with those transitions. But in the Portuguese league, they're actually one of the best defensive sides, and they have been for years. Ever since Amorim has been there, they've conceded a fierce amount of shots. Last 4 seasons now, 3 times they've had the lowest expected goals against them, which is, all these metrics are sort of really important to show how good they are defensively. And I think for that reason, Amorim's a good fit. And then secondly, the other reason why he's a good fit is because he's someone who's really embraced the youth at Sporting. So I was looking at the numbers. Since he's arrived, he's given debuts to 25 players under the age of 21, or 21 or younger, I should say. And that doesn't just include new signings, that includes academy players brought in from the academy and promoted into the first team, the likes of Matheus Nunes, who's obviously gone on to City, Nuno Mendes, who's gone on to PSG, and the other one is Gonçalo Inácio, who's obviously been linked with Liverpool as well, and it'd be interesting to see if that's something Liverpool explore if Amorim is brought in. But yeah, all of those things, and on top of that, when Amorim was appointed, the youngest ever player to play for Sporting was Cristiano Ronaldo.
Wow.
Since then, 3 players have broken Ronaldo's record under Amorim. So again, that just kind of shows, he's trusting youth and he's willing to throw them in at the deep end. I think 2 of those players were only 16 years of age when they made their debut. in that sense, definitely can compare him to Klopp because Klopp hasn't been afraid to give debuts so young to players as well. So everything to me seems to suggest he'd be a good fit. He's someone we clearly like, and obviously there's other teams interested. But if we made our approach early, then hopefully, fingers crossed, we can win the race to sign him.
Hello there. Have you ever found yourself getting ready to watch the Liverpool match? You've got your mates round, you've got your drinks, you've got your snacks, you're all set to go. It's going to be a good day. And then you find out, oh, the game's not actually being broadcast in your region. There's the heartbreak, there's rage, there's despair, there's fury. You're upset. You're looking for a solution. Well, we've teamed up with NordVPN to bring you a game-changing solution. That's right. With NordVPN, you can switch your virtual location to a country where the game's on live. It's like having a global ticket to sports, TV shows, and movies from all around the world. And here's the best part. If you go to nordvpn.com/Anfield Index, you'll score the best discount on your NordVPN plan. Plus, our link gives you 4 extra months free on the 2-year plan. And that's what we call a winning streak. And if you're sitting there and you're thinking, what if it's not for me? What if I don't like it? What if I'm not getting the use of it? Don't worry about it. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's totally risk-free. I've been using NordVPN to catch all the Liverpool matches and TV shows that I'd normally miss out on. It's totally transformed both my weekends and my TV watching. And not only that, not only does it give me access to stuff from all around the world with the click of a button, it keeps all my data safe. It means that the miscreants, the ne'er-do-wells, what my grandmother would have called scallywags, who lurk on the internet to try and steal your information, can't get your information. NordVPN keeps it safe for you. So don't let geo-restrictions bench you this season. Visit nordvpn.com/Anfield Index and make sure that you're in the game, no matter when or where it's being played. Remember, it's not just sports, it's your all-access pass to binge-worthy TV shows and blockbuster movies from all around the globe. NordVPN literally unlocks the world for you and keeps you safe from the world. So don't miss out. Head over to nordvpn.com/Anfield Index and let the fun and games begin.
Yeah, lot to like that. Lot of bits in with Jurgen Klopp, and there was remember we did a Portuguese pod the other day on Amorim specifically, and I won't pretend to even try and pronounce it in Portuguese, but as the motto that he's installed at Sporting, where one goes, everyone goes. So yeah, very much fits in. There is a lot to like. And I did want to pick up on the final thing on the off the field stuff, because you mentioned youth and the importance for Amorim if it is him. Marques, very much the headline today. I say it's today. I know it's been going on for a while, but Ornstein almost confirms it today. Quite a few of the patch journos that, and I want to phrase this carefully, FSG, not Liverpool, are set to appoint this man to a technical director style position, or very much focus on the youth pathways, I love a lot of the articles say. I mean, is there anything we know about this guy really? Sort of history, stats, facts, anything like that at all?
I mean, I think the first thing I would say, the exciting thing is, if this appointment is being made, it would suggest, like the Michael Edwards appointment suggested, that we are very close to finding that club, or I'd rather say FSG are very close to finding that club. So I'd expect, I think, something to happen this summer even, because you wouldn't be bringing in all those people if the new club in question be lined up. So yeah, that's, I think, something interesting to note. With him, like Julian Ward, who obviously ended up working out. He was at City, worked for the City group, so he's got that multi-club experience, which could come in handy. Obviously, since 2018, he's been at Benfica as a technical director, sort of overseeing their youth setup. Again, that's very similar to the role that he would have with FSG. I always have to correct
True.
myself.
Yeah.
It's not Liverpool, but obviously he'll be very closely working with Liverpool and with Richard Hughes and everything. So I think if you look at Benfica's track record under him, they've recruited really well in terms of bringing young players in. They've brought a lot of young players in through the academy. And like I said, I think the most important factor is that fact that he has that experience working for the City Group, and he knows how it works in like a multi-club environment. So that I think is the biggest standout for me. And on top of that, he's obviously someone who likes to work with young players, and he's got that sort of passion for that and for player development, which I think is going to be really important in this role.
Yeah, no doubt. It will be interesting to see, like you say, what does go on with this multi-club. How close is it? Because it would seem a bit unusual to start making these appointments and just have them people sitting in mothballs, as it were, so to speak, or a long term of gardening leave. It will be one to keep an eye on as the season develops. And like you said, even the summer. I mean, back to the sort of on the pitch stuff. It's a tale of two Uniteds this week, isn't it? It's Sheffield visit Anfield on the Thursday, and then it's, I don't care what anyone says, the big one on the Sunday, isn't it? Realistically. I mean, there's almost seems like we shouldn't be blasé, but a complete contrast between the two. That's how it feels anyway. Sheffield United at Anfield. I might be wrong on this, we'll see, but it feels like you're going to be telling me the stats on Sheffield United coming to Anfield feel pretty much well in our favour, but I could be wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, the last time they'd beaten us in the Premier League was in 1994. So
wow,
that was quite a while ago. I wasn't even alive back then, so I don't have any memories of that. They lost their last 4 at Anfield, lost their last 6 games overall against us. So yeah, not a great record. And but these were games when I think, particularly like the games that they lost, like at Anfield last, they were games when Sheffield United were actually quite decent, particularly under Chris Wilder, like when they had Sander Berge and players like that. And I think it was that contentious penalty decision against Fabinho.
No doubt, yeah.
We still won that game, but those were the games when those were times when Sheffield were actually like half decent. Now, obviously, it's a completely different Sheffield United that's coming to Liverpool. You can't say they're half decent at all. They've been horrendous, although I think they did get a draw in their last game.
True.
So there is a slight improvement, but you'd think defensively there's just more than enough for Liverpool to exploit. And I'm expecting us to get a comfortable victory, even though I'm expecting I think a fair few changes as well. And I think the way sort of Klopp made his substitutions against Brighton was very telling. He waited quite a while to make his first, which has been unusual this season for Klopp. So I think that's one of the reasons why, is because he's sort of resting his key players for this one.
Does feel that way, wasn't it? It was late onto the pitch for the two Dutch boys in Gakpo and Gravenberch, same for Harvey Elliott, but you would not be surprised remotely to see them in this one. And Curtis Jones, as we know, back fully fit, as Jurgen Klopp talked about after the game, so you'd hope, even if it's not a start, for him to see some minutes, a bit of rest and rotation. It does feel that way, Ben, I'd agree. Sort of Brighton strongest, rotation for Sheffield United, and then the strongest you can possibly get out for this one on Sunday. I mean, there was extra motivation, if any was needed, to start with, on the back of that FA Cup result recently. That just added a little more season into the mix, so to speak. But I don't know, it's always going to be a tough game at Old Trafford. what does our record actually look like in the league there? I know we talked last time about the cup and things like that, but league-wise, what does our record look like at Old Trafford?
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So our last 5 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 win for them. So that's decent. I think we'd rather get the win than the draw. So 2 wins is not bad. Last season we lost 2-1, but obviously that wasn't our greatest campaign. Obviously against Ten Hag as well, we haven't beaten him there, but again we haven't played a lot against Ten Hag at Old Trafford, and I do think that sort of defeat might have worked in our favour almost a little bit in the FA Cup, just because I think it just sort of gives them that extra motivation, that extra sort of video analysis as well to look back to see what they will be expecting, and we can better prepare for this one. And I do think like it's going to be a completely different game, and Mohamed Salah is going to be fully fit. Our team, Sobosai only came back. I think that was one of the first games he started since his injury. He's had a few starts now. It's just going to be completely different. And I think as much as the Old Trafford crowd will be desperate for us to drop points, that's not going to affect us. And I think for United as well, there's just less of an incentive in this one because they're doing so horrendously in the league. They've not really got any genuine chances of getting to the Champions League. I think Postecoglou was asked in his press conference, because obviously Tottenham are fighting for the Champions League.
True.
Do you see United as contenders? And even he kind of laughed it off. Like he kind of said, like, well, we're only 9 points behind City, which is exactly the same amount of points United is behind Tottenham. And he was like, do you see us being a contender with Manchester City? And obviously that kind of shut up the journalists a little bit. So, yeah, I think given the fact there's less incentive in it for them, given the fact that there's way more incentive in it for us, as much as, we say, yeah, the FA Cup's important, but we've got to be realistic. The Premier League is where it's at. And, I think all those factors, we're going to have a much stronger team. We'll be better prepared. Hopefully I don't jinx it, but I think it'll help us get a better result.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And we'll say nothing about Anthony Taylor's appointment, which has set Twitter and social media ablaze. We'll just leave that one alone completely. But yeah, another couple of massive games this week. And the final section, like we always do, ladies and gents, we try and make it a little bit different. So last week, if you remember, we asked Ben almost up to this point who we thought was the young player of the year in terms of the stats. So we're asking it a little bit differently this time in terms of, and this seems to promote great debate, especially on social media, who is now our most important player? Because you see quite a bit, don't you, Ben, that when people talk about Salah, I see people talk about, well, look how Núñez stepped up, look how Jota stepped up while he was out, look at the other attacking options and the numbers. I see then people say, well, look at McAllister and his run of form, and people jump on that. And, people say Van Dijk. It seems to provoke a great debate. Alisson almost seems to have slipped from the mantra, all that discussion now that Kelleher's been so good. So we'll try and go about this a bit of a different way. So with this campaign and what we're seeing, what the stats tell us at the same time as well, who using that data do you believe or linking towards the most important player for Liverpool and why?
I mean, I was going to say something wild and say Wataru Endo because Liverpool haven't lost a game that he's started in the Premier League. But I think a lot of the listeners will jump on that as well. I think there is a case to be made there, you know. Causation definitely doesn't always equal correlation, but I think there is an argument to be had that Liverpool have looked a lot stronger since he's sort of come on and got into his best form, and there's a reason why Liverpool fans rate him so highly. But I also think like the holding midfielder is so important in this Liverpool system, and a lot of the times I think when Fabinho was at his peak, we'd mention Fabinho as the most important player, and we'd sort of feel his absence when he wasn't there. And then, we really felt it last season when he wasn't performing to the standards he did. So I think that's why there is a genuine case to be had for the holding midfielder and for Endo to be that sort of most important player. But I know, like, realistically speaking,
I don't think you'll get away with that one, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Realistically speaking, I mean, it's got to be between the trio of Van Dijk, McAllister, and Salah. It's sort of hard to define or decide between the three of them. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk's like defensive record is so good. He's so strong aerially, and that's something that Jurgen Klopp really needs in his team. He needs strong defenders. Van Dijk is the best at that in the Premier League this season. Obviously, he's a threat from set pieces and everything. So he's got to be there. Salah, like 0 point. A goal contribution every 76 minutes in all competitions. Like, you can't argue against that. He's also got 4 match winners now. After that Brighton goal, which is again just 2 behind Darwin Nunez. So he's catching up to Nunez, but obviously he's got his goal contributions in terms of per minute is a lot better than Nunez is, and I think he's someone whose creativity has gone under the radar as well. He's creating a high volume of chances, one of the best creators in the Premier League. I think he's still created the most big chances in the league. And that's with him missing like 2 months, like you mentioned. So the reason why I don't want to go for him, it seems like the obvious answer, but like Liverpool sort of managed to deal with his absence while he was away, didn't we? So I think for that reason, maybe you can't say that he's the most important, because the most important player would be someone who you would feel their absence in the team if they're not there. So I think for that reason as well, like, I think McAllister is important, but would we feel his we would obviously feel his absence a little bit, like we felt Salah's absence as well, but would it affect us to the extent that we'd drop points, we might not perform as well? And I think right now in the team, if everyone's fit, we do have players who can step into that McAllister role. Someone like Jones, maybe he won't be able to do it as competently as McAllister, but he can do a good job there. Szoboszlai as well, who was obviously playing on the right side before McAllister made it his own. So yeah, for that reason, I wanted to go for Endo, but I'm going to go for Van Dijk because I think it's obviously the most obvious answer. And I think if Van Dijk isn't in the team, we would feel his absence 100%. Yes, Kwanzaa has been brilliant. But a lot of the times that in the Europa League, when Van Dijk wasn't playing, that's when I think our defence looked the worst. So for those reasons, I think before Alisson got injured and before Kelleher has had that brilliant run of form, I would have picked Alisson. But right now it's Van Dijk, and then maybe in second place Wataru Endo for what he has done, and Liverpool still being unbeaten when he started in the Premier League.
Yeah, I can well get behind that. Listen, this isn't to diminish any player. I think we know McAllister and Salah have been absolutely world class, but I think it's fair to say there are other midfield options. I know he may be the best player there, no doubts. Salah probably, yeah. If for that argument, it does level against the way Jota, Nunes, even Diaz stepped up recently. So you look at that, doesn't make Mo Salah less important, but that weighs against him. Van Dijk's the
world class. They are world class players. Like all of them are, but I just think you got to look at like who Liverpool would miss the most, because that's the most important player for me. And that doesn't mean they're necessarily maybe the best player in the team, although you can make a case for Van Dijk to be the best player in the team. But for me, that's why I also kind of picked Endo, because he's like not the best player in the team, but for the role that he has, who do you have other than him to play that role? And how much would Liverpool miss him if he wasn't in the team? So I think that's how you kind of got to find the most important player. And for me, the two that stands out is Van Dijk and Endo.
Interesting. That will no doubt prompt debate. That will no doubt prompt discussion. But that was the whole point of the question, wasn't it? And the hypothetical one that squeaks in, ladies and gents. So, another massive week, another massive couple of games, the tale of two Uniteds, and we will see where we sit next week when all is said and done in the stats situation. But all it leaves me to say as ever is, Ben, thanks for the time, the content, the insight and the analysis. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and hopefully I don't get too much slack on Twitter for picking Endo as one of my most important players.
Yeah, I'll probably hope for a different outcome on there, but we'll see what transpires. But ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me Up for Anfield Index.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.